Sancho to score. No mistakes this time.
That is a rocket.
Royce and another fantastic goal by Marco Royce. Haaland's volley is beautiful beyond compare.
Jetzt kommt das Wunder von Dortmund. Foulspiel von Inzo an Götze.
Needs to lay it off. We're going to shot away. Oh, what a goal!
Welcome back
sorry.
to Dortmund Dispatch. Today you get like a little something extra, I think, is how we can put it. All the OGs, all the hosts minus Joey, but how are we all doing? Pedro, Brian, Ali, all need no introduction at this point. But how are your weekends? I don't know where to start. I'm looking at so many beautiful faces.
Pedro, why don't you start?
No, yeah, sure. What's up, guys? It's been a while. Yeah, I've been like with some family issues in the past few weeks, so that's why I was a little bit absent from the pod. Of course, I was still editing. I was still in that duty. But yeah, I'm glad to be back and finally with a victory and something to celebrate about this goddamn football team.
I second that. I second the fact that we have a victory to talk about. It feels good, feels great, and I'm ready to get into it.
You can tell Pedro's out of practice because the first couple minutes are the most important minutes to not curse. After that, it matters a little bit less. But Ali, how are you doing?
I'm good, man.
Is that a curse?
I don't know.
It's Eid today. I mean, we will find out, but it's Eid today. So I've been celebrating with friends and family, and to anybody who's listening, celebrating Eid Mubarak. We're recording this on the Sunday, and yeah, I'm chilling, man. I'm always having a good time, even when everything's going to shit. But yeah, what about you, Eli? What about you, buddy? Enough about me.
Everything is going to shit is a sentence that was just stated after I talked about how we're trying not to curse. Only Spotify can define what a curse word is. Hopefully that's not one of them, because I'd like to stay in the algorithm. Anyway, let's get into it. So Borussia Dortmund comes back from the international break, and I'd say fairly convincing. Not entirely, but fairly. It's only one open play goal, but we did get 3 goals. There are other ways to score goals. So yeah, what did you guys think about the performance this weekend?
I thought it was good. Obviously, more than I would have expected, especially considering our performances leading into this, especially against a very good or very informed Mainz team. So overall, I mean, really good, really strong pressing, taking our chances. Gotta love to see that. And yeah, just overall happy with the overall performance and effort shown by everyone on the pitch. And I think, even the players, coming back from injury, and the subs, everyone played their role to a degree, and everyone was able to put, at least I think, their best foot forward. So yeah, overall, I was very happy with it.
Yeah, no, I agree with Brian. I think I had the same impression. I thought we had a good performance overall, and I was just surprised with the lineup. Of course, the Girassi absence was a bummer, but at the same time, I was a little bit curious if that change of structure, the formation with Jan Couto and playing basically in a back three, was due to the absence of Girassi, or there was something already planned beforehand. Maybe we never know because we didn't have access to who was actually training and was actually going to be the starting lineup before that absence. But yeah, I thought it was a good performance overall, and I think we have some good, interesting cameos, and especially I think Maxi Bayer, especially he had a great match, honestly.
Yeah, I think it was a good performance. It's good to see us finally win against Mainz after some tough games against them in the past. Like you mentioned, 2 goals from set pieces, something to definitely discuss, a different formation. But yeah, I feel like there was more positives than negatives. The second half, at least the start of it, was a little scary. But overall, I think we did fine.
I think to break down the tactics, we'll start by talking about this quote from Niko Kovac. It was important that we had 2 very fast forwards today who attacked the deep areas and marched a lot up front. Maxi then scored 2 more goals. It couldn't have gone better, but we still have some work to do. I'm still very happy with the result. Um, so do you think that this is kind of like Niko Kovac essentially taking advantage of Garassi's injury and going to a system he's a little bit more familiar with? Pedro, why don't you talk about the tactical setup from Dortmund today?
I thought it was, as I said before, I think we never know if that change was due to Girassi not being available for selection. But at the same time, I really like the change, honestly, because I think at first I thought, okay, he's trying to mirror the formation from Mainz because they basically play with a tree in the back. So I think that's majorly what he wanted to do. And I really like how the formation really shift very smoothly between like a back four, sometimes with Anton drifting as a right back and giving more freedom to Yokoto to attack the spaces either through the flank or to the middle. I thought that was a pretty interesting change and gave us different options for the build up, for how to construct plays and how to keep possession. And I thought that was a very smart, and I mean, it was quite a basic thing in football, just mirror formation, but it was simple and effective. And I really like that from our players and from our manager in this particular match. You said also about the forwards. I really liked how Bayer and Adeyemi just transitioned and just collaborated between each other in this particular match. I think it was great collaborative work between those two combining from the middle. I love Adeyemi in those little pocket of spaces close to the final third and close to the half spaces. And I think they're both pretty effective. And of course, Bayer scored 2 goals. So I think he really had a night for himself. But I think from tactics, I think it's pretty much it. I think pressing was also pretty solid. I think we really managed to narrow down the channels for Mainz build up. And in that sense, I think we did a very simple and effective work.
I think Pedro touches on a really important point there, and it's kind of something I mentioned as like earlier in the recording as well, and that's that pressing. And I think without Girassi there, you were able to play Adeyemi and Bayer up front, and they were able to play into that pressing game because they're both very good at that. They're both very able runners, and they can absolutely terrorize defenses, and that's what we saw in this game. So I think it was an opportunistic situation for him to be able to play those two up there, but I think it really, really worked out. And as Pedro mentioned, I mean, I think the pressing was exceptional in this game. And yeah, I mean, it just 100% worked in our favor. And I've said a million times, I'm a massive Maxi Bayer fan. We'll talk more about that later. But yeah, like seeing those two players be able to play up front together, which is very interesting to me. And also with Adeyemi as well, because we have to remember at Salzburg, he played in our front two very often as well. So he's very much used to being able to play in that position as well. So it showed a little bit of versatility on his end as well. So that was good to see. But yeah, honestly, I would like to see a little bit more of that partnership if more opportunities would, allow that to be the case, even if it isn't on a regular basis, because it was very entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I think like one of the biggest differences, like I've talked about how a side can accommodate like a passenger out of possession in the press, and Julian Brandt is uh, often a passenger out of possession, and Serhou Guirassy is most definitely a passenger out of possession, and only having the one of them in this game really allows that part of our game to be a lot more successful because you can get away with it from time to time against a lot of the weaker teams, but we haven't this year because of various reasons, a bit of bad luck, conceding 10 or whatever goals over expected, and just like general bad vibes around the club leading to bad performances, is another way to put it. And having the energy on the pitch can really shift the energy into your play and lead to some better outcomes there. But um, Ali, do you think that the tactical shift to the 3-5-2 is something we heard rumors about Anton starting? Do you think this is a path towards sustainable success this season for Borussia Dortmund?
Is it a path? I think it's mainly possible if you have two guys that are trying to get in behind, even if you play Guirassy, for example, who's not necessarily someone who's looking to get into those spaces. if you don't play Brandt, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. Just give me a second. I will land. If it's very very nice to see, because if you do play Gerassi there, and then you have Bayer and Karim around Gerassi, that's a very dangerous formation to have, because not only do you have the speed in behind and the ability out wide, you also are able to free up the striker, which is something that we've been screaming about all season, where Gerassi doesn't always have space. There's nobody making room for him. He's having to drop so deep to touch the ball. So I think, I think I do think it's a path to success, but it's going to take trial and error, right? They're going to have to get used to it. But if they do, you can really unlock Maxi Bayer, because this was a formation that he succeeded in with Hoffenheim. And as you guys mentioned with Karim Salzburg, right? This is not something new to him. If I'm not mistaken, Stuttgart, right? They played a 3-4-3 type of formation as well. So I don't see it failing in terms of potential, but it's all going to honestly depend on can our players create those chances and stay solid defensively, so that we do have those chances going forward. But yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and you could certainly see like Garassi and Brandt swapping out. But let's move on to some of the set pieces, because that's obviously one of the biggest talking points coming out of this match, when you have the tallest player on the pitch or the tallest player in Dortmund. I don't know the height of every Mainz player. Outfield players, I mean. I'm qualifying myself left and right. But when you have the tallest outfield player, now we're correct, look at that, on Borussia Dortmund taking corners, there's going to be some questions asked, especially if it doesn't go well. In this case, we get 2 assists from Nico Schlotterbeck, pushing my fantasy team into the top 5 of Dortmund Dispatch. But we can talk more about that later when we give our fantasy shoutouts. So Nico Schlotterbeck stated, "We played a good pressing game and were wide awake twice before the break. Daniel Svensson hit the corners during the week. Unfortunately, he was a little bit injured. Then you have 2 left-footed players in the team with me and Karim. The corners actually worked very well in training, and today I just tried to hit the balls like I did in training." So how much of this do you think is Schlotterbeck being a better corner kick taker than Karim Adeyemi, or that absolutely rapid pace Karim Adeyemi has, and his ball striking? We've seen him score off some cleared corners. Do you think there's a combined, like, defensively we're better with Karim outside the box and Schlotterbeck on corners, versus Karim on corners, Schlotterbeck in the box? Like, where do you think the balance falls? I'm going to start off with Brian. What do you kind of think about that?
So, I mean, and maybe this is just me, I don't have a vivid memory of Karim taking a million corners for us in the first place. So I think that's kind of an unknown quantity for us as is on the regular. I think the points you mentioned about, his pace and his ability to strike the ball as being, proper weapons, in those situations, as definitely having, weight in terms of this conversation. But when it comes to just the corners themselves, I think, and once again, we kind of talked about this before the pod, it is a small sample, right? But just the way those corners were hit, I think, they were served on a platter. So if you have that ability to hit those balls the way he did, you increase the chances of someone, being able to capitalize on that immeasurably. Because even if you look at the one that Bayer scored, it took him, obviously he had to rise up to meet it, but he didn't have to do too much at all with it. He kind of just aimed it and he was like, all right, bet. And then it went in. And it's just like, it's kind of like what the commentators talked about in the game too. It's like a lot of, set pieces are based on the delivery. And if the delivery is that good, I don't care who it is who's taking it, if they're able to put that ball in like that. And another thing we kind of talked about prior to recording as well, is the fact that we have other people that can, rise to meet the ball. We have Chan, we have Anton, we do have aerial threats that if we want that kind of situation, we have those targets to aim for. And other players also show that they're able to do that as well. I mean, Maxi Bayer, like this isn't the first header he scored for us. This isn't the first attempt he's tried from that sort of situation. Girassi, when he's on the pitch, he can score headers as well. So we do have players that can fill that role. So for me, if Schlotterbeck is the best one to do that, great. He mentioned Svensson. Svensson's corners have been quite good since he's been here too. So I mean, if you have a situation where you want more of those like tall, like bigger presences, those aerial presences, you put Svensson in that situation. He takes the corner. But if Nico's corners are this good, like consistently, it is a conversation to be had and a question that Niko Kovac might want to take a look at as to who's taking them regularly.
Yeah, so Pedro, my question for you is going to be, do you think Svensson and Ryerson is a good combination on the corners, with Svensson taking your left-footed corners and Ryerson the right-footed, or do you think Nico Schlotterbeck keeps taking them? Because to me, one of the differences we saw was we've seen with like Ryerson, there's a good shape on it, but it felt like obviously very small sample size. But so far, like Nico Schlotterbeck is dropping in dimes based off like a specific run that he knows is coming, and he's putting it in the right spot. Whereas Ryerson's putting a good shape on the ball to get it into a dangerous area, more at random. Do you think there's a bit of that here? Do you think Schlotterbeck will continue taking corners with a fully fit Daniel Svensson? What do you think is going to come from this? Is this a real change in Dortmund's set pieces, or is this another false dawn?
Honestly, I don't think so. I don't think it's a major change for our set piece game. And honestly, I think at first I'm gonna start saying like I'm not necessarily like a guy that's restricted to that. Okay, we have a right-footed guy, so he's gonna take the corners from the left and a left-footed guy on the other side, so they have a better angle, which makes sense because it's easier for them from their angle where they're hitting the ball to hit in a better position for us to give some threat to the opposition. But I'm not against the opposite happening as well. And I think Ryerson can take corners from the right and like vice versa with Svensson or any other left-footed player who gives plays corners for us. I don't think it's a major change. I think it's more due to the occasion with having no proper left-footed player that I can remind myself now. I might be, of course, besides from Karim, but as Brian said before, I really also don't remember Karim taking as many corners right now in just pulling out from my memory. So I think it's more of the occasion. And honestly, I was really surprised with us being really good with corners in this particular match, especially because of Mainz. And have a few interesting stats here when I was researching for the pre-match article that I wrote for BVB Buzz, and I came up with the stat that they won the most, third most aerial duels in the league with 574. Of course, these stats do not count this particular game against Dortmund, but still, it was a pretty good record. Of course, they count both offensive and defensive set pieces, but still, like I was not expecting Dortmund to be that threatening against Mainz. Of course, it could also be due to their missing a few players on the defense, like Kor, who was suspended for red card, and Stefan Bell, who was also injured as a center back as well. But I was really think it was due to Nico Schlotterbeck's delivery, because even though he's a tall guy, he's good with playing corners, hitting those balls into the back of the net. He has a great delivery in his foot, and all due respect to Daniel Svensson and Ryerson, but if you put those two guys combined, they don't have the same technicality and ball hitting skills that Nico Schlotterbeck has. I'm just a Nico fan, as everyone knows here. I think we all are, but yeah, I think it was due to Nico's great quality on the ball, and maybe I don't know. I don't think it's gonna change much, but I don't know. Like this kind of performance with 2 assists, it might change our manager's mind.
That's very fair. Ali, do you have any last thoughts on our new set piece strategies?
If it works, it works. I'm with it. As long as the ball ends up in their nets and not ours, do it. You know what I mean? Because as like if it's Vincent on the corners, if it's Ryerson, if it's Nico, if it's Kobel, I'm exaggerating. If I'm just saying, as long as the ball ends up in their net, I'm with it. No problem. We've seen crazier things before.
That was definitely in-depth analysis on par with the previous two people that spoke.
Exactly.
So thank you, Ali. Let's move on to our
wow.
star of the
Jeez.
week.
It's cool. It's cool.
I'm
Don't
sorry,
worry.
what?
No.
Anyway, let's move on to our star of the week. We'll let Ali go first so he gets a chance to
Hey,
express
thanks, man.
himself.
I get left with the crumbs.
Yeah,
Uh,
I gave you the crumbs on the last one, and then I made fun of you for it. So I'll give you the
it's
first
cool.
star of the week.
I'm already
No,
bleeding.
be-
Um,
benevolent, excuse me.
there it is. There it is. No, I'm joking. I loved. You know what? I was gonna say a player, but I'm gonna save it for the guy that really loves him.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna say Schlotterbeck. I'm gonna say Schlotterbeck just because we're talking about him so much. I think like his overall game week in week out is phenomenal, and to see this side of him, I never thought. Not to say that I never thought he was capable, but I never thought that I would see him on corners. It also speaks to how desperate we've been in terms of delivery. I think I put it in our group chat, like shame on all our midfielders and wingers for not being able to put in a decent delivery, because if your center back has to step up to do this, it's a problem. But anytime we needed someone to step up, right, to score a goal, to swing a ball in from the wings, whatever it is, it's always Schlotterbeck. So I'm not surprised that he's also amazing at this. So for me, he's the best this week.
Fair enough. And then we'll go to Pedro for your star of the week.
Yeah, I'm not gonna just try to do something different because I have no other option on my notes here. Nico Schlotterbeck is the obvious man of the match for me here, of course start of the week. And something that I think Ali didn't mention, but what got stuck with me when I saw that play in particular. If you guys remember that Karina Ademi 1v1 chance where Zetner saved right, I think he saved with his right hand. It was a great save by the Mainz keeper, one of the best in the league for sure. And yeah, man. But if you remember the beginning of that play with Nico Schotterbeck just getting the ball from their player, just making the half turn and playing a pass that goes through three Mainz players and just giving a nice attacking opportunity for both Bayer and Adeyemi to do their magic. Man, that play just excels what Nick Schlotterbeck is so good at. On the ball, off the ball, he's a complete center back. He's a complete player, and he could play in any side of the board, in my opinion. And for me, he's the obvious start here.
Yeah, you got players like Kevin Schlotterbeck who just, when they get a foot in, they just poke the ball away. But when Nico Schlotterbeck wins the ball, he manages to keep possession of it, and then ping a 70-yard ball on a dime onto Kareem Adeyemi's foot. And I think that relationship that the two of them have isn't talked about enough. Two of my favorite players, probably only two favorite players, honestly. But Brian, you've been waiting probably since the match ended to talk about a certain player.
Yes.
Do you wanna just
Yeah.
spend the next 10 minutes waxing lyrical?
I won't spend 10 minutes, but I do want to give Schlotterbeck his flowers too, because I know you guys mentioned a lot of the stuff already, but yeah, I mean, he's a player that can do everything, and we were kind of saying this before recording. It's like he feels like he could play any position. He can shoot, he can dribble, he can make fantastic passes, create chances. I mean, the guy does everything. So having him be our center back, like I do think we are very lucky to have him. So any other week he would be my star of the week, but alas, Maxi Bayer exists, and yeah, he just had a great game. I mean, I'm super happy for the kid. I think that he's finally coming good. I think he's also a player that's got a lot of hate this season because of the fact that he didn't hit the ground running right away. But at the end of the day, you can see in every game that he plays that there is quality to his play. Even if he's not having the best day in the world, he is an absolute terrier. He is running. He is constantly trying to press. He is constantly trying to be a threat. And I think it's just a matter of time until he becomes a more consistent threat for Dortmund. And I think we're kind of going in that direction now, where we're seeing him score every 2-3 games now. We're seeing him have far more of an impact, and I think his game today was very much refined, and it wasn't against paltry opposition. This Mainz team is very good this season. as Pedro mentioned, they're very good at, defending corners and very aerially dominant usually. And granted, they were missing a few players. That doesn't change the whole complexion of the defense. And I think him just scoring that header and showing the versatility in his play, I think really underlined what sort of player we have on our hands and really kind of sets the tone moving forward for him. So I do think he just grows from strength to strength here. So super happy to see.
Yeah, he's over 9 expected goal contributions in 1,400 minutes on the season. This is a guy that I don't think when he didn't hit the ground running, it was even anything to do with his talent. I think
Yeah.
like him being pushed out onto the right wing at the start of the season was a bit of a disservice to him, especially with a certain player in Serhou Guirassy missing those games, and I think allowing him the confidence and believing in him to start up front in those games could have helped his transition to the wing, right or left. And then since the second half started, he's really been a difference maker, and the pressing has been nonstop the entire season. But I'm going to talk about the guy in the strike partnership. It's Karim Adeyemi for me. Has to get a shout here. Obviously, the goal contribution numbers of a Nico Schlotterbeck, 2 assists, 2 goals for Maxi Bayer, are very good. But Karim Adeyemi, to me, is in open play our best player. A lot of the corners we're winning are through good things that Karim Adeyemi is doing. There's a difference between like receiving forward passes in decent areas and receiving the ball under pressure in forward areas, receiving these long balls, running in behind, these long runs to press. You're also seeing those things from Karim Adeyemi. And importantly to me is that we've seen a lot of criticism for Karim Adeyemi over dribbling in his one-on-ones and like passing when he should maybe shoot. But to me, he turns in this situation like a shot that may go from like a point 0.2 to a 0.3 xG shot into essentially a tap in for Maxi Bayer by being unselfish, putting a beautiful weight on the ball, getting it past the defender, and from there a player of Maxi Bayer's quality like is going to finish that more times than not and is always going to be making that run. And Karim Adeyemi's understanding, his getting on the end of it, not giving up on the play so that when Maxi Bayer gets that touch, which gets it past the defender, Karim Adeyemi's still there, not giving up on it. And that's the type of player he is. He's very relentless. He got caught in between spaces, I think. Like it was not a flawless transition for him from the right wing to that front two, but I think that as the match went on, he got better and better. He's played a ton of minutes this season, and Karim Adeyemi, for me, has been our best creator this season, and honestly, our attack has really run through him in open play. I got his jersey on today, so got to give a shout out to Karim Adeyemi for my start of the week. But let's see if we can find some negativity from this performance in our segment, the dud of the week. I'll again go to Ali first. Who is your dud of the week?
It's kind of hard to pick one, because I feel like everybody did well.
You can go abstract, like the linesman did not know what offsides was in this match. Like that's an option.
But I'm not the type. Oh, my camera just went. I'm not the type of person to do that, right? Like I leave it to you guys to talk about Vatska and all these guys. But I'm gonna say Kobel only for the goal because I feel like that was savable. Because there was a bit of a hesitation as the ball was going, and it's kind of a cop out for me, I know, but I feel like that's a opportunity that you should save because he does hesitate. That you could say like the chance was conceded, offside, all these things. I always pick a player, so I have to pick the guy that let the ball go in. Sorry.
I mean, I was kind of going to go in the same way because if you watch that shot back, there's not a ton of pace on it. And at the time I was like, well, it did go through a lot of people, so like I played a little bit of goalie in my day, but I went back and I looked at the shot map on SofaScore, holding it up. You probably can't really see, but that little ball in the goal is it's pretty central. And if you think back on that chance, Kobel was a little bit too close to his near post, and as a goalie, you shouldn't be listening to these commentators saying, "Oh, you can't get beaten at your near post because you shouldn't be conceding goals." And so I will second Kobel's dud of the week because that is a savable shot if your positioning is a little bit better, because all you need to do in that situation is just get your foot to it. And like the shot was fairly central from a fairly central location. Maybe he's a bit slow to get over. Maybe he sees it a bit late. Maybe it's a combination, but I just think that he could have done a little bit better there. Like the post shot XG is 0.38, which isn't like a 0.38 XG chance where like half the time it's just not going to be on target. This is a chance where like it's on target, it should be saved. Maybe it's a bit closer to a coin flip, but it's a chance that I think my second highest paid Bundesliga goalkeeper should be saving. And in this case, it wasn't. But let's go over to Pedro for his dud of the week.
I really didn't want this moment to finally arrive, but I gotta go with my boy. Unfortunately, Young Koto is my dud for this week, and I'll explain myself like this because still really like Koto, and this is not me giving up on him at all. But what I will say is that I mean, for his performance, I have the stats here somewhere, but I think I lost it. I think he was dispossessed 10 times. Yeah, it's right here. He was dispossessed 10 times in this match, from which one was that pretty dangerous chance from Mainz when he was trying to carry the ball close to our box, and then they saved a crazy chance that Mainz should have converted. So that could have complicated us a little bit in the first half. But not only that, I thought had a few decent first few minutes, honestly, with a few smart passes close to the box, trying to find Maxi Bayer and Karina Adeyemi in that sector. But at the same time, he wasn't really effective after that. And of course, he is not really the toughest guy physically speaking, so he lost a lot of his duels, especially on the ground. So in that sense, and due to the fact that it was one of the first matches with Kovac that I see him playing as a right wing back, which was technically the role he's most comfortable at. And he's still not performing to the level, getting a yellow and getting substituted at the 62 minute. Unfortunately, that's not good enough. I need to leave my heart out of this equation, out of this analysis, and just trying to be cold and just point out that Jan Koto is my dud, but I still haven't given up on him. And by the way, Tim Hauser, one of our writers for BVB Buzz, he wrote a really good article, 3 reasons not to give up on Jan Koto, and I think you guys should really check it out because he brings some really valid reasons. But I'm gonna leave you guys to the article if you are interested. But unfortunately, Koto is my dud for this week.
Yeah, don't give up on him, but he is Pedro's dud. Brian, who is your dud of the week?
I'm gonna go abstract because no one did. I'm gonna say it's the defensive line for that goal that went in, just specifically for that goal, because at least in my opinion, at least I think, like, as much as we can say Kobel's at fault for that goal, the lead up to it, to me, was very lackadaisical on the end of our defense, because at no point should that ball be pinged around that easily in the box the way it was, because when the Mainz player is getting to actually shoot that ball, within that sequence there are 2 or 3 opportunities for that to be cleared. So it didn't technically even need to get to that point. But on top of that, and this was maybe more so just from my initial, look at what was going on, I do think that Kobel was a bit unsighted for that because, Eli, as you mentioned, like, it does go through a couple people. And slow, fast, like, at least for me in that situation, the strength of the shot matters less, especially if you just simply don't see it coming. you don't see it coming and you can't react adequately. Because if you look at the other saves that he made throughout the game, he had that crazy double save that was very much reminiscent of the Koble that we know and love, that we talked about in previous seasons and previous episodes. So I don't know. For me, it's just like we can definitely talk about what Koble could and couldn't have done. A keeper will allow certain amount of shots in, especially in a situation where they're not fully prepared to save it because they don't see it. But if you're allowing it to lead up to that, point where you have numerous opportunities to shut it down prior, I think it's going to be on the defense in that situation, allowing that situation to occur. Because at the end of the day, you still need to cover for your keeper. It doesn't matter if it's Manuel Neuer or whoever, at the end of the day, you do need that extra cover. And I think that was kind of just an unfortunate sequence that occurred and very much avoidable and preventable from it getting to that position in the first place.
I think the feed I watched showed a couple
and
replays where there was some offsides in the buildup. I guess they decided that it was too far preceding the action that led to the goal for it to get called back. Did you guys kind of notice anything of that?
I saw them, they were checking on numerous occasions, or like in numerous instances, like they kind of broke it down and were looking at every specific part of it. But yeah, I mean, that's also something that could have, come into play. But at the end of the day, if you're allowing the ball to be that easily pinged around in the box, you're asking for trouble. So can't really rely on the linesman. I totally hear what you're saying, but
Yeah, that's fair. I think in your defense of Koble, the last thing I'll say is, yeah, there's some nice looking moments, but at the end of the day, it's a minus 0.53 goals prevented in this, and that's kind of in line with some of the things we've seen this season from Koble. But Pedro, is there something you wanted to add?
No, yeah, I was just gonna say, I think even before that unfortunate sequence of events inside the box, I think even before that, if you rewind, Nico Schlotterbeck tries to progress the ball, he loses his pace, he loses the ball, and then Svensson has the clear chance to clear it, but he doesn't. He hits the ball on the Mainz attacker, and that becomes the origin of the play in the first place. So I think
exactly.
Brian's point is really valid. I think the whole defensive line really just was dismantled, like in that specific 1 or 2 minutes that we considered that goal.
I just
think
didn't want
there's
to pin
never
it on
one.
Svensson specifically just because he was coming back. Like I felt like that was kind of like the easy way to go about it for me. But like I didn't want to pin it on him because he literally just came back on from injury, out weeks, and like I don't know. I felt bad doing that. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
I think that it's fair to criticize like the defense because in every instance like that you concede a goal in soccer, like the ball has to get past 11 players, not just Koble. So I don't want to be too harsh. Like I do agree that there are instances in which players can do a bit better in that situation, but yeah.
I think I dropped in the chat right before the goal went in, clear the ball, because we were conceding so much. I'm like, yo,
that.
I was like, just kick it away, get it away from us. Oh man, but sorry, keep going.
Yeah, someone's definitely told Koble that as well because previously where he was being asked to do something he was very uncomfortable with and stand on the ball, take those touches, and allow players to press onto him. He's now just clearing the ball, and all of a sudden it's no longer an issue of what he's being asked to do with his feet because he's just being asked to clear the ball. And wow, would you look at that? It's working a lot better. But let's move on because we have a match preview of Freiburg. 34 matches total. Dortmund have 25 wins, 5 draws. Freiburg winning just 4. Freiburg are on 42 points. This is a crucial game for them to get into Europe. And it's a crucial game for Borussia Dortmund if they want to get into Europe. So what can we expect from this match?
I think, if you guys don't mind me jumping in, I think we can expect like a high intensity game. I think you can expect another back 5, back 3 situation. Since it worked today, I don't see or pardon me, I don't see a reason not to go back to it. I think They just really need to fix that um, lapse of concentration that led to the goal. Um, but other than that, I think it's gonna be like end-to-end stuff at least for the first 20 and the last 20. And I take my chances against Freiburg. I think we've had a pretty good record against them. I do understand what's at stake, but I also think that our boys have a lot to prove. Coming to the tail end of the season, so yeah, I think I don't know. I'm feeling a Bayer hat trick. I don't know. The voices are telling me a Bayer hat
Music
trick.
in my ears.
Yeah.
Brian's gonna cry, Ali. Oh, Brian's gonna cry.
Tears of joy. Please.
Don't get too high. Don't get too high because
Yeah.
then you'll be let down. No, I think this is probably Freiburg did just lose their goalie to injury this week. In Atabulu, he's had a much better season than he did last year. He's really come into his own, especially in the second half of the season. Had a bit of a poor start, but really turned it around and has been in excellent form. They brought in their backup, didn't look incredible in that match. I think they are one of the better teams above us. I think there's a couple teams above them that I think will drop points that like I'm not overly worried about how many more points they have than us, because if we take care of what we can control, I see us passing Augsburg, Wolfsburg, Leipzig, Gladbach. Whereas Freiburg, like if they can control what they can control, I'd be a bit worried. Especially because if we don't win this match, then there's a serious issue there. Because that 5 point gap after this match would be huge. So I think this is a must win. It is away. And do I think that they come out and put up a great performance? I'm not entirely like I am nervous because it's an away match and this is Borussia Dortmund, and we've seen this year under Niko Kovac things have gotten a lot better away, but the relegation form away is still the case. I've talked about a lot of bad luck coming our way this season, but I think we can win, but I think it will be a very nervy game. I think that uh, Freiburg will score, but I think we get two. I think we get two.
You're talking about a very solid Freiburg side. They obviously have the players that can hurt a team. I mean, Ritzaduan on his day can be very dangerous. Vincenzo Grifo has pulled stuff out of thin air against us in the past. Like these are players that we're very much familiar with that have caused trouble in the past. And kind of like what Eli said, this is an away game, so it's kind of a coin toss as to what exactly is going to happen on our end. But it really depends. Like if we do build on what we displayed today, and we're going into this with more fit players. Svensson is going to be up and running fully, I think, by the next game. Felix Mecha should be coming back somewhat soon, I believe. So you have additional options for midfield and in the defense, so that'll be good. If Bayer builds on his form, if Girassi comes back and is able to contribute, I think, yeah, we 100% have a chance to win. But I do think Freiburg is one of those teams that is going to make it difficult, especially at their home stadium. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough fight. If I'm going scoreline, I think I'm also going to go with a 2-1 win. And it's going to be a very nervy one. I think, yeah, we're going to be on the edge of our seats throughout it. So.
I need someone to pick a loss, or I'm gonna start thinking very negatively about this match. Pedro, you don't need to keep that in mind. Give me your real honest opinion without my influencing.
Well, I think it's going to be a difficult match, and what you said, I think it's pretty true. I think we need to focus on what we can control. Like we're not gonna, like we should have put ourselves in a position to not depend on other results. So right now we should focus on the stuff we gotta do. So we might be in a position to get in European competitions. But speaking of Freiburg, I really think, I mean, in the past few seasons, if you get our records against them, it's really good. Like in general, 2022, 2023, 5-1, 4-2 wins in 2023, 2024, 3-0, 4-0. So they're all wins with large margins of goals in those particular matches. But at the same time, we have what you said, the record with Niko Kovac. That this win was our first Bundesliga win with Niko Kovac this season against a team from the top three, the top five, and it's not even one of the best squads in the league, in my opinion. Like Bayern Munich, like Leverkusen, and etc. So in that sense, I'm gonna maybe be somewhere in the middle. Originally, on my preview against Mainz, I predicted a 1-1 draw. I gonna keep in that same line. I think it's gonna be hard for us, the Black Forest, to face Freiburg away. I'm gonna go with a 2-2 in my prediction.
Okay, Lee, what is your score prediction?
Oh, I gave it 3-0. Bayer hat trick. I was
Fair
very
enough.
serious.
I
Yeah.
love
Fair
it.
enough. I would be.
Yeah.
That would make
Come
me
on now.
very, very happy.
Yeah. Come on.
Okay, well, we have a lot of quick transfer rumors to get through. So let's start off. Jadon Sancho, apparently not a topic, but is interested in moving back to Borussia Dortmund. If anyone wants to talk about why Jadon Sancho should be signed by Borussia Dortmund, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Why he should?
It's not a matter of, you know,
I like how we all jumped.
all of us wanted to go at that.
Yeah.
Oh, everyone wants to sign
Everyone wants a
Sancho. I
piece.
don't know. I thought I wouldn't be alone. I don't like. I would love
No.
to see him return on a free, but I don't.
I'll go last. You guys go ahead.
Okay, but who is first? That's the
All right, hold on.
Pedro, you're first.
Yeah.
You started talking.
Go ahead.
Oh my God! Now it's a competition.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go first. Yeah, no, for me, I think you're not alone, Eli. Like, I think it depends on the situation. Like, if it's on a free, sure, please come back. We give you the number 10 from Brandt. We don't care. He used to play better with the 19 either way. So, but I mean, on that same line, like, it's not like I don't like Sancho, but I just really hate that narrative on transfer market. Every time Sancho is not doing well or he's not playing regularly, there's always that Borussia Dortmund comeback story again in the media, and there's always like on that hope that he could do his magic again in black and yellow. But man, I'm just done with the narrative, and come on, it's not gonna happen. So yeah, like overall, like if the occasion, it's like Eli said, it's on a free, love it. Like we're having nothing to lose either way, but. If we have to pay a lot of money for him at this point in time, I wouldn't go for it, honestly.
Sancho's contract is up at the same year Brent's is, by the way. So
Oh, I didn't
think about that.
forget about that.
Ali, did you have anything to add?
I'll make it quick. So I would love for him to come back, but I do agree that the situation has to make sense. We've been crying for in regards to a lack of creativity this whole season because Brandt hasn't done as much as we were expecting him to. Reina has not shown any signs of consistency, and then overall midfield has looked kind of blah. Our wingers aren't exactly the creative type in the classic idea of creative, so having him or that type of player would be amazing. But I do agree with Pedro where it's like, all right, like I'm getting tired of it. It would be dope, but if you come, like I expect you to stay for the rest of your career, because like this is getting exhausting. This whole saga. I could start dumping on the Premier League, but I won't do that today. I'd love for him to come, but the situation has to make sense. Pardon me, Brian. Go ahead.
Ali, I got a good shout for you. So Santi Cazorla went back to his native club in Spain. Ali is a big fan of Spanish football. He's playing for the minimum legally allowed salary. Would you take Sancho for that?
Hell yeah! Hell
Okay,
yeah.
Brian, real quick.
Yeah. And
What's your
before-
Sancho opinion?
Yeah, but before I get into mine real quick, I do want to kind of talk about what our listeners thought about this. We did put a little poll out on Instagram, and 82% of those who got involved actually said that they'd love to see Sancho come back in the right situation. 12% said no, and 6% said that they don't care. either way. So I mean, take that as you will. But in terms of how I feel about it, it's kind of in line with what you guys are saying. It's like if the situation is right, sure, but definitely not on high wages and definitely not for a high transfer fee because I don't think he's the main need right now. And it's kind of like what we talked about, like once again prior to recording, because I feel like we talk about all this stuff before we even record. But the priority right now, I think, is midfield. I think that's where we need to be looking, and I think that's where we need to be putting the biggest investment at this point in time. So if we're just going to dump a bunch of money in on Sancho, I don't think it makes sense. But if United if for example Chelsea, which they are apparently now going to pay the 25 million fee, if they were not to do that and United's just trying to get rid of him and he's willing to take a wage cut, sure, why not? Because he comes back to a comfortable situation, we might be able to build him back up again. But that is a big if, and I don't think he's exactly what we need right now. But on the flip side of that, and just to keep this part of it short, I do think we romanticize the idea, and I talk about this as the Dortmund community and the club itself, with about these like reunions, because we've had this with Kagawa, we've had this with other players with Götze, and they've been a mixed bag. I think that it's something that Dortmund really have to think very hard about, especially in a situation like Sancho, because kind of like what Ali said, if he's coming, it has to be for the majority for the rest of his career, because he's getting to the point, he's 25, he's going to be what we would think be in his prime. So he's going to be signing a 4-year contract or something like that. You need the player committed. So it really depends on so many factors. And unfortunately, right now, that just shouldn't be our focus.
So Julian Brandt could potentially this season finish on 20 plus goals and assists. And if he does, that would be 4 seasons where he's had 20 plus goals and assists. And Jadon Sancho in that time will have 0 with 10 goal involvements. And you can talk about how he wasn't playing at Manchester United, but at the end of the day, he's about to be the wrong side of 26, which is the age curve for a dribbling or dribble reliant winger, and that's not a good time to sign that type of player. So let's move on. Ralph Ragnick to Dortmund. Yes, absolutely. I would like to sign a very qualified guy that is getting a job because of a reason that's not related to Hans-Joachim Watzke's love and affection. Do any of you want to give me a more in-depth analysis, Pedro?
I feel like Pedro dropped.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I actually wrote originally the article for BB Buzz on this topic, and I mean, I think we got to leave it clear that according to the information from Patrick Berger, we're still not sure, or it's unclear which position at the club uh, Ragnick would be taking a position next season if he were to be signed by the club, and of course he has a great fan in there in Jan Joaquin Watzka there. And of course, we had the secret meeting before Kovac was even signed, as he was considering to be the gap manager until the end of the season, so Dortmund could maybe figure things out in the summer. But yeah, I mean, I think it's way too early for us to just jumping into any conclusions. I think for Kel, it could be a little bit. I mean, we know he's a little bit in the hot seat, but I don't necessarily blame him. Like he's just a small percentage of the responsibility of why this season has been so disappointing for Borussia Dortmund, in my opinion, at least. I think he has signed good talents for the academy. He had made good signings and good sells by the time he has been the sporting director. And I mean, I wouldn't be against having a guy as qualified as Ragnick in that position, but I'm not sure if that's going to be his position at the club either way. So maybe he gets the role that Mittelstadt had before he was fired a few weeks back. So I think everything is really unclear, but I think it's a high possibility that he signs for the club.
I mean, so okay, so if we're talking about someone like Ralph Ragnick, let me first start by saying, like, yes, I think he would be of immense benefit to this club, especially right now because we don't have an identity. We feel like we're kind of just listlessly floating about. I think he'd be able to bring that identity. I think he would be able to definitely ground this club a bit. The thing with Rangnick is that he's the type of guy that you or that would want a lot more control than some of the guys I think that we have in positions right now. He very much likes to be hands on, and he very much likes to be in control of things.
Well, he's just used to having those higher level positions because of his success, rather than like
Right.
a Thomas Tuchel who wants to be hands on everything, but has only been successful as just the coach.
Well, so that's the thing. I mean, so when you look at both that and what other people have said about Rangnick, he is the type that does like to have the control. So he's been in those positions, he's been successful, but he's the type that when he's going into a position, he wants to have to have that hands-on type of situation. So I feel like if you're bringing him in, you're gonna need to give him that sort of role. So you're gonna have to make him like either your head coach or your sporting director. I think those are the two roles that you'd be looking at for a profile of like someone like Ragnick. Which I think, depending on what happens with Kovac, I think that's a fairly decent shout. That's someone to keep in mind for head coach as well. I do have a lot of respect for Rangnick in that sense, but I think, and this is not to knock Kale, because I do think that he does get a lot of hate, and he's not necessarily been the exact issue, throughout this time. I mean, yes, he's had some, misses in terms of who he's profiled and targeted, but I think there's been a lot of abrasiveness within the club overall, and a lot of tension, not allowing everyone to work to their full capability. But I think having Ragnick in as a sporting director would be great as well. I think, his vast experience, he has a network that he can rely on, and he has a vision. And I think all these things would benefit the club in terms of where we're at right now. So even if we're not really kind of fully knocking Kale, I think even if you were to bring Rangnick in that situation, you're upgrading. So I think, it's either head coach or sporting director for me.
Okay, Ollie, I know you can faithfully answer my question without filibustering like Brian. Who would you sack to bring in Ragnick? Ricken, Vatska, Kale, all three. Pick your poison.
We've complained a lot about Vatska. And the complaints in terms of Ricken has been frequent as well. Kale, I don't mind him necessarily staying on. I do, how do I say this? When he went to United, and I'm sorry for the long-winded answer, I liked that he was calling out everything that was wrong, and I think that something or someone like that would benefit us. Sorry, am I still connected?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, someone like that would benefit us because, we do a lot of speculating in terms of like what's happening behind the scenes, who is saying what, and a guy like damn, what's his name? Slipped me.
Vatska, Ragnick, Kale, Ricken.
Ragnick, sorry. A guy like Ragnick will just call it out in the same way that he did at United. So I would say I'd say get rid of Ricken, because I don't know if he is doing a better job than what Ragnick has done in the past in a similar role. Even if you bring him in the Kale slot, I think it's a good thing. I don't know about removing Watska yet. I think his position and his network is definitely useful for the club. But that's kind of what I think.
Yeah, I think it'd be Ricken because like Ricken was never as successful anywhere as kind of Ragnick was, but we were also linked with signing Ante Krunic in the summer, but it looks like we went in a different direction. He moved to Norwich. I don't know if we really need to talk about him quite yet. So lastly, we're just going to give some user shoutouts. So first off, JI or L, I think JL8485 on YouTube. Thank you so much for interacting. You're one of our biggest fans on YouTube, and we really appreciate your support. So I wanted to give you the quick shout out there. And then Fantasy Bundesliga update. I've been promising a top 5 appearance, so I'm in 5th. And then in 4th, we have FC Chico 09, debut top 5 performance. Edward DC4 clinging on to 3rd. And then Pints of Bayer into 2nd with Ryu Sanugi taking the top spot. So I think that's 3 straight weeks with different leaders. in Dortmund Dispatch Fantasy. So good job, guys. Excellent competition. Will I sneak into the top 3 before the season's over? Who knows? I think Dortmund have a better chance of UCL football, but we'll see. That'll do it for us. Have a good one.
Sancho to score. No mistakes this time.
That is a rocket.
Royce out. Another fantastic goal by Marco Royce. Haaland's volley is beautiful beyond
Jetzt
compare.
kommt das Wunder von Dortmund. Foulspiel von Inzo an Götze.
Needs to lay it off. We're going to shot away. Oh, what a goal!